What if I told you that the episode you recorded this week, the one you probably spent hours on, I mean, let's be honest, at least 30 minutes more prepping, recording, editing, promoting. What if that one episode could be doing 15 different jobs for your business right now? Because guess what? It can. And most of you are only letting it do one. I just got off a call with the lovely Michaela Matthews, and we were talking all about the biggest marketing mistakes that podcasters are doing. And it's really creating your podcast episode, putting it on Instagram once, maybe putting together a newsletter and calling it quits. That's not the way to do it. So let's make this content that we are working so hard on stretch for us. All right, so let's dive in. Today, I am genuinely fired up about this topic because it's one of those episodes that I think is going to completely shift the way that you look at the content you're creating. And honestly, it might make you feel a little emotional maybe about all of the episodes you've already recorded, because you, my friend, have been sitting on a gold mine and you maybe didn't even really realize the impact of it. So here's what we're doing today. I want to walk you through every single way you can repurpose one podcast episode. And I mean, really repurpose it and create, here's the word I actually prefer to repurpose, create a content ecosystem. So we're not just talking about post it on Instagram and call it a day. I see it all the time. This is no way to grow and market your podcast. We're talking about 15 plus ways to take one episode, stretch it across your entire business so it's attracting new listeners, growing your email list, nurturing your existing audience, and generating real leads and revenue. That is what a content ecosystem should look like and do for your business. But before we get into it, I need to say something that is so important. And I'm going to say it now, and I'm going to come back to it later because I really, really want it to land. This is not a to-do list. This is a menu, if you will. I'm not sitting here telling you to do all 15 of these things for every episode you record. That, my friend, is just not right. That is not the direction we are going. And honestly, that would defeat the entire purpose of what we're trying to do here, which is build a podcast that works for your life, your business, not one that just takes it over, right? So think of today's podcast episode as inspiration, as a resource you can come back to when you're planning your content and you want to think bigger about what's ahead or what's in front of you, what's possible, right? And then pick what makes sense for you where you are right now. Okay, because you might be a solopreneur, you might have a team. The output is going to be very different between those two scenarios, right? Even if you're a solopreneur with a VA for a few hours a week, like that is still going to be a very different output than if you have somebody who is your marketing expert or your marketing assistant or whatever it might be, right? I always say, let's not try to just spread ourselves thin and be mediocre at everything. Let's really hone in, understand where our audience is, and create content and become an expert at that platform before we expand out, right? Okay, so first, why does this all matter, right? Because I think a lot of us have been quietly conditioned to believe that repurposing is somehow maybe lazy, like, oh, she's just recycled her content and it's not fresh, it's not brand new. But I want to bust that myth wide open right now because purposing is so smart. Repurposing is what we are doing in the world today using AI. Now, we'll get into this too, but AI is not just going to repurpose everything for you and then call it a day, right? We still need to get in there. We still need to personalize it because they're smelling the BS, right? You can't just AI it all, put it all out there and expect to grow. That's not how it works, but we can use it in certain ways, right? Here's what I see. You're already doing the hardest part, which is showing up. You're recording, you're teaching, you're pouring your expertise into a microphone week after week, right? The content is already there and maybe 600 episodes worth of content is already there. The ideas are already there. The vault is already there. Even if you have 20 episodes, the vault is there, right? Repurposing, intentionally creating a content ecosystem just gives more value to what you're doing. It stretches it. Here's the other thing, and this is important too. Your audience is not all in one place, right? So some of your people are on Instagram. Some are on Pinterest. Some are your loyal email subscribers. We love them, right? Some are Googling questions at 11 p.m., stumbling across AI results. Some are in your course portal right now, working through your program. And again, we don't have to touch every single piece of the content ecosystem, but knowing where they live and their repurposing strategically allows you to meet each one of them exactly where they are with the same content that you already made. So I hope that feels like a shift, right? A good shift in the right direction. All right, so let's dive into this. And I'm going to actually group these actions into categories so it's easier to think about and honestly easier to take action based on where you are right now. All right, so these first few are all about using your episode to reach new people, right? We always want to see our followers growing week after week after week. So people who don't know you yet. Number 1, SEO-rich blog style show notes. This is my absolute cornerstone strategy. If you've been in my world for any amount of time, you've heard me talk about this, right? But I will never stop talking about it because it is that important. I'm not talking about short, truncated show notes that you drop into your hosting platform, right? There's a spot for those. There's a place. But right now, what I'm talking about is fully fleshed out, readable, AI searchable, bot searchable blog posts that live on your website and is written in a way that makes the SEO bots very, very happy. Think headers, paragraph, bullet points, keywords your ideal listener is actually searching for and written so well that somebody could land on it and get value without actually ever hitting play on your podcast episode. Now, I know the goal is to get them to the podcast. I know. But this is another great way to just get them into your world, get them onto your email list, and we'll worry about the rest, right? Jenna Kutcher has done this beautifully for years. I mean, her blog is essentially her entire podcast archive in blog form, and it works. It drives traffic. It gets her website indexed. It puts her in front of people who are searching for the exact thing she's teaching. And when you get a good template, which I have for you, by the way, you have your AI trained to help you fill it in. This takes almost no time at all. You drop in the transcript. AI already has the template. Let's do this thing, clean it up, put it in your voice, publish it, done. All right, number 2, Pinterest. Oh, Pinterest, the most underrated platform for podcasters, and I will die on this hill. Here's what I love about Pinterest that makes it completely different from every platform. The shelf life, right? A pin you create today can drive traffic to your blog for years to come. Not days, not weeks, years. In fact, if you want to learn how to use Pinterest intentionally for your podcast, go back to last week's episode. It was with Andy Smiley, and she talks all about the right way to use Pinterest without overwhelming yourself. Speaking of Jenna Kutcher, I love her. I love what she's doing. But posting a pin 15 times a day on Pinterest, again, if you have a team, you go, girl, you get it. But if you don't, Andy has some really great ways to use it intentionally, effectively. She's tested it. So go listen to that episode. That was last week's episode, and I will also link it up for you. But creating a keyword rich pin that points directly to your blog post, which we just talked about, right? And your episode page. You can use a quote from the episode. You can use a bold statement, something searchable, something clickable, something that makes your ideal listener stop scrolling and think, yes, that's exactly what I need right now. And here's what I'll say. If you're not on Pinterest, I want you to consider it and start to think about how you can integrate it into your week. Andy actually started posting a pin once a week. She now posts once a day, and she still sees traffic and growth to her podcast and her email list. So if that feels doable to you, maybe you go down this route, because here's what I always say. Pinterest is not a social media platform. It's actually a search platform. It's like Google. It's like Chrome. Insert Bing. What is Bing still around? I don't even know. It just came to me. Anyways, that's what Pinterest is, right? So it's a search platform. It's not social media. And that's a huge benefit to us. All right, moving on. Number 3, YouTube. YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world, and your episode title is a searchable asset. That is why when somebody comes to work with me, which by the way, you should, because I have something really exciting happening right now. The time that this episode is going live, we are literally about to dive into a 4-day challenge specifically helping podcasters use AI to generate more leads, more leverage, more traction in their business. And we're going to talk all about this. We're going to dive so much deeper into it, but let's get back to it. When you use your episode title in a searchable way, which means you've done the work, you know what the keywords are, right? You don't have to have a fancy video setup to be on YouTube. You really don't. Now, if that's the route you want to go, I love it. If you have the budget, the time, the space, the capacity, go for it. But you can upload your episode with a strategically branded image, really good, strong episode title with keywords, and it's going to work, right? The point is that your content is now discoverable by an entirely different audience who is actively searching for what you're teaching. So if you are recording a video, even just a simple talking head setup, right? Upload the whole thing. Let YouTube work for you while you do other things in your business, right? So maybe an episode will blow up on YouTube. Maybe you'll generate a handful of leads. The point is, if you're sitting down to record a podcast episode, turn on your video. Play around with it. Be curious, right? Again, I always want to come back to this. This is a menu. This is not me saying you have to do everything, okay? But let's move on. Number 4, repitch the topic as a podcast episode. So this one is so good and nobody's talking about it. You've already done work fleshing out this topic, right? So for me, this specific topic, I have talking points that I'm following. I have a framework, maybe, I have my perspective on it. I'm going to take this core idea and I'm going to pitch it as a topic to be on somebody else's podcast. So the cool thing about this is that now you're not getting asked the same questions on every single podcast. You're starting to become an authority on different subcategories within your area of expertise. So that means that we're drawing in new listeners, but same intellectual property, if you will. You reach, doubles without creating a new idea or talking about the same thing over and over. And there's nothing wrong with that, but this is a unique way to pitch and to make it unique to a podcast specific that you want to get on, right? So here's the bonus. Use your best performing episodes as proof of your expertise when you are pitching, right? So you can say, I recorded an episode on this topic and the response was incredible. Let's say you got some DMs on Instagram. Maybe you send that over in your pitch. Or if you have the metrics that you're comfortable sharing, you can say, here's the metrics from this episode to show, right? So that's a compelling pitch because they go, oh, this topic applies to my audience. She's already tested it. Let's go with that topic. I would love to have you on, right? So it just gives you a new level for when you go to pitch a podcast. Okay, now we're talking about using your episode to actually build your email list because, your girl loves this conversation. And also because we know downloads are lovely, but email subscribers are everything. Okay. We know this. So here's number 5. Create a lead magnet that goes above and beyond. So every strong episode has a natural lead magnet living inside of it. I truly, truly believe that even if you are telling stories about people who have overcome or walked through addiction, right? There's something there. I want you to start seeing that. And the key here is that the lead magnet doesn't just summarize the episode. It goes beyond it. It's the next step. It's the next carrot that you're dangling that they need after they've absorbed what you just taught. And especially if you are in a teaching capacity like I am. So if your episode is, about writing SEO friendly show notes, the lead magnet isn't 5 tips for your show notes. The lead magnet is the actual template. Or, if I didn't share in that episode how to use AI to enhance your show notes, it's how to enhance your show notes through AI. It's the done for you framework. It's the prompts, things like that they can use immediately and get an immediate win. That is what people want these days, right? They love a good AI prompt. The difference between a lead magnet people download and forget is one that makes them think, oh my gosh, where has she been all my life, right? I want more of her. And then when you go to sell, it's a natural yes. So this becomes your CTA at the end of the episode, even built in, baked in throughout, right? And when it's directly tied to what you just taught, opting in feels like the most natural thing in the world. It doesn't feel like a pitch. It feels like a gift. It feels like the next best thing, the carrot, right? Number 6, add it to a quiz result playlist. Okay, I had to talk about this one because it's exactly what I've been building in my own business, what I've built with so many of my clients. When someone takes a podcast-centric quiz and gets their result, one of the most powerful things you can do is give them a curated playlist of episodes that speaks directly to where they are. Now, if you've been in my world, I am all about identifying the slight nuances between your ideal customer, right? There's always like the end goal that they all want. That's similar, but there's slight nuances depending on where they are on their journey. So you can't just say, here's 50 to 200 podcast episodes. Go pick out your favorite ones. When we give them a curated playlist that is specifically to them, they'll binge it. They'll listen to it. Now they're a super fan. Now they are in your world. They are committed. They're so excited. They feel so seen, right? So I just launched my personal podcast after years of helping my clients launch successful podcast-centric quizzes, right? And so my results are the Foundation Fixer, Growth Accelerator, or Scaling CEO. If you want to go check out my quiz, go to podcastmarketinghub.com/quiz to take it. But I now can go and see not only my results and create podcast episodes specifically for those different buckets, but then I can take those episodes and I can add them to the podcast playlist for that specific result. So as you're creating content, start thinking about which quiz result bucket this episode belongs to, right? It's not extra work. It's just being intentional about what you've already made. And I'll also do a slight plug. Come fall 2026, I will be doing a podcast-centric quiz blitz. So we're going to do probably 6 weeks of deep dive working together where we're just going to bust out a quiz the exact way I teach my one-on-one clients to put together effective podcast-centric quizzes. So if you're like, I want to do a quiz, it's been on my mind. If you can wait till fall after I have my baby, I will be back with that. We'll work together for 6 weeks in a group capacity. We'll use AI. We'll make it really good and juicy so you can have your podcast-centric quiz. Because I see so many people going on their own to do it and they're just not doing it quite the right way. And trust me, I have some amazing results I can share with you about the way I strategically put one together. So I'm excited to share that with you. All right, number 7, add it to a Spotify playlist. Same concept, but for your Spotify listeners. Bless Spotify because it allows you to put together playlists. And I appreciate that. But we want to build thematic playlists and then drop your episode in, right? So it can be an episode for the podcaster who wants to grow her email list, episodes for established podcasters who are ready to scale. Your listeners can follow the playlist. You can add new episodes, right? It becomes this living, breathing resource that you can keep adding to, and it keeps them in your world. Not only that, people can publicly search playlists. So people who have never even heard of your podcast might land on it. Number 8, use it in your email newsletter. And I don't just mean new episode alert, go listen, right? If you've been in my world, you also know this. I mean, use the episode as the jumping off point for something deeper. Share a thought that didn't, make it to the final recording. Tell them a story behind why you chose the topic. Give them one extra insight that takes the episode further. Remember when we talked about the free resource? You can do this in your newsletter as well. And then your newsletter becomes the freebie, right? The newsletter is the next step. Hey guys, get on my newsletter. It goes above and beyond. I share so much more than what's in the episode. It's going to feel like a nice hug, for all of you podcasters who are just looking for the next steps after we listen to the podcast episode, right? That makes your newsletter feel like a bonus layer on top of what they're already getting. It also keeps your open rates high. This is what makes people feel like being on your list is worth it. It's worth opening up your emails. It's not just a notification for what's on the episode. You're including industry updates and maybe some personal stuff from your life and resources that can support that. I mean, there's so much we can do within a newsletter. That's what people are looking for these days. All right, let's move on to the next segment. So these next ones are all about using your episodes to serve the people who are already in your world, your students, your clients, your community. Let me be very clear on this. This is something that is so misunderstood. And It's just a misconception altogether. Just because somebody is in your world does not mean that they are listening to your podcast or listening to it religiously, but we want them to. Why? Because they're low-hanging fruit. They've already said yes to something you've offered. They're already in your world. We don't have to go out searching for them. They're right here. But just because they're there does not mean that every week when you drop an episode, they are there, right? So we have to make sure that they are, though. So let's go into number 9. Drop it into your course portal or membership. So this one is so simple and so underused. If you have a course, a membership, a group program, your podcast episodes are a supplementation content that's already done that you can give them. And it's like, it's there. It's there for them when the timing is right, when they need it, which is so great because sometimes, again, it's curating the experience for them. Because sometimes you might drop an episode and they're like, ooh, I know I'm going to need that, but I'm not there yet. But maybe they're going through your course and they're finally there and, oh, there's that episode again, right? So did you record an episode about, let's say, podcast metrics? I have. I dropped it into a module all about analytics. Maybe you recorded a podcast about writing a strong CTA. That can go in a marketing module, right? Your podcast and your paid offerings should be in conversation with each other. Always, always, always putting your podcast in front of your students. Always. And here's the beautiful thing. It adds value to what your students paid for without creating anything new, right? More resources, more free resources for them. All right. Number 10, use it as a resource during coaching calls. How many times has a client asked you a question that you probably have deep dived in on your podcast? My guess is a lot. So start keeping a mental, or I actually prefer a physical list of what episodes answer which common questions, right? Then when you're on a live call and somebody asks you a question, you're like, oh, you know what? Let me give you a high level overview, but I actually did a whole episode on this. I'm going to send it to you in the chat. And if you have somebody helping you, task them with constantly being ready to search for those episodes and then drop them in the chat, right? And if you're doing it solo, you can kind of try to do it while you're typing or just send them. If you're using keywords correctly, you can just have them, Google search the name of your podcast with a keyword for that episode and it should come up, right? Your podcast just became a tool inside your coaching practice. That is the smart thing to do. Okay. Number 11, send it to leads and inquiries. So this is one of my favorite. When someone reaches out asking about working with you or asking a question you've already answered, send them an episode. It can be via email. It can be DMs on Instagram. All you have to say is, actually, I just recorded something about this. Here's the link. I think it would be really helpful for you. I actually did this. Also, another way to do this is by using a student testimonial. So let's say you have a couple offers. Maybe somebody's like, what is it like to be in your membership? Or what is it like to work with you one-on-one? Oh, actually, I recorded an episode with one of my one-on-one clients who had amazing success. Can I send it to you? I think it'd be really helpful for you to understand what it's like to work with me, right? So it positions you as the expert and it gives them value before they've spent a dime. It warms them up in a way that a sales page never could because they get to hear somebody else talking about what it's like to work with you, what it's like to be in your community. It does the selling for you. All right. Number 12, train your AI with the transcript. All right. So before we dive into this one, again, I want you to come join me for the upcoming boot camp I'm hosting. It's going to be podcasting, the Glow Up Party AI edition. And if you want to get signed up for that, we start literally today. So May 5th is when this episode drops. And that is when we're starting. But I'm going to teach you all of the special ways to be using AI. And specifically, I'm going to show you how to train Claude because I truly think Claude is offering so much more to podcasters than ChatGPT. And I'm going to show you how to get there because it's overwhelming to think about training Claude after you've been with ChatGPT for, a year plus. So, but anyways, let's get back to the episode. So if you want to sign up, get in there. Today we are starting. Don't worry. I will get you caught up. If you're just catching this, you can go to podcastmarketinghub.com/glow. That's podcastmarketinghub.com/glow. If you're listening to this in real time, come hang out. But okay, let's get back to it. So upload your episode transcript to whatever AI you choose. I'm a big Claude fan. I think it just gives us much better results. I'll talk all about that in the Glow Up. But let it learn your frameworks, your language, the way you explain things, the examples you use, if you have templates, things like that. Now, when you ask it to write your show notes, your newsletters, your social captions, whatever it might be, it's literally learning from you, right? Every single time. And over time, you keep feeding it transcripts. It gets better and better. And the cool thing about a transcript is it's how you naturally talk versus typing in things. So every time you have a transcript, upload it. If you have cowork, you can literally put it in a folder on your website. Claude Cowork can go in there, grab it and see it. I love that, right? So we're training data for your own personal marketing assistant. That's what we want. All right, moving on. Let's talk a little bit about social media, because I think most podcasters are doing kind of the bare minimum here, posting the episode link, hoping people click it, right? But we can do so much better if we choose to go down this route. Again, going back to what I said at the very beginning, pick and choose what makes sense, what works for you, and then go down that hole, right? Lean into that, become a master of that, and then expand if you are working with, just a solo entrepreneur or don't have a full team. All right. So we were just recently told that on Instagram, talking head reels are really going to take off. So I want to tread lightly with the advice I give you here, because it takes a lot for you to just grab a clip. Like, I think about Riverside has magic clips. If you just grab a magic clip and put it on Instagram, it takes a really special clip to perform well on Instagram. However, what we can do is we can work with AI and say, what's the most polarizing or, like clickbaity, whatever, segment from this episode. And then I want you to write me a talking head script, right? Then you create the talking head reel. It does not need to be fancy. You don't have to have a full script, right? You can have just bullets or just know in your head. You don't need a ring light. Like, you just need to jump on, speak to your camera, talking head, talk about whatever was really interesting, really juicy from that podcast episode, and then use that as your reel. I would test this out, but I pretty much guarantee that if you do this over just grabbing like a magic clip or a clip or something from your podcast that you record, it's going to do so much better because you can curate it. You can make it a little bit juicier to really capture the audience, right? And people like short, fast things on Instagram. So let's lean into that. All right, number 14, the carousel. So take the frameworks or the step-by-steps from your episode, break it down side by side. People save carousels. That's the thing. And so they can save and share your carousel. And that's what we want. Every single save is a signal to the algorithm that your content is worth showing to more people. So especially if you have a solo episode where you're teaching, or like me, where I'm sharing 15 things to create your content ecosystem, I can turn that into carousel, right? And I also want to say you can use these across so many different social platforms if you choose to, right? You can use a carousel on LinkedIn. If you're still on Facebook, you can do it there. You can turn it into an ad. Like, there's so many ways to use it. All right. So the last one, number 15, the quote graphic. So this is such a great graphic that you can literally use on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Pinterest, everywhere. So you want to use AI to help you find the juiciest clickbaity quotes from your episode, right? So get a whole bunch, have AI pull it from the transcript, and then read through them and see what's really amazing and surprising. Turn it into a graphic, keep it really simple, and let that quote just do the work for you, right? You can use this across so many different things. And so that's why I love a good quote graphic. In fact, for every transcript, what I'll do is I will just have AI pull the best ones, and I'll just keep a running doc of it. And I can go back and find quotes that I can use through various things. Okay. I promised I would talk about this, and I meant it, because I know that some of you are listening to this episode on 2x speed, between school pickups, your next call. And the idea of doing 15 things with one episode sounds amazing in theory and completely impossible in reality. So let's talk about what to do when you're in a time crunch, when life is happening, when the baby isn't sleeping, you know what I mean? Or traveling or launching or whatever season you're in, right? Here are the fastest, highest, most impactful moves that you can do. I want you to pick 2 or 3 and call it a day. Call it a win. All right. Fast win number 1, the newsletter. Take your transcript, drop it into AI, add a couple other interesting little bits from your life, from your industry, whatever it is. You don't have to flesh it out. You can just give it to AI and say, summarize this episode, write a newsletter in my voice, include XYZ from my life or the industry, whatever, and put together in the newsletter. If you work with me, you have a template to do this, right? But this does not take a lot of time, and it makes your subscribers feel so seen and taken care of. So done. Fast win number 2, maybe one reel. Okay. So pull one teaching point from an episode, record it. Again, people like raw and real. It does not have to be perfect. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't overthink it. Something like, did you know XYZ, right? Maybe something really standoutish. In fact, I would maybe say, if you want to repurpose your podcast and have 5 quick wins within 24 hours, here's what to do. And then I'd go through these or something like that. Fast win number 3, the quote graphic. Again, this can live in so many places. This is so versatile. So find the best line from your transcript. Use AI to do that for you. Make it graphic in your brand colors. Post it. You know what I mean? Post it anywhere, wherever you are. That's it. So quick, so easy. On Instagram, on Pinterest. That can be something in your newsletter, right? Fast win number 4. Next time you hop on a coaching call, plug in an episode or 2 for your audience, right? Remember, they're low hanging fruit. They're already in your audience. Get the podcast in front of them. Okay. And lastly, fast win number 5, email the episode to a lead. So look at your inbox, look at your DMs on Instagram, on LinkedIn, wherever. And if somebody reached out to you about something, I want you to respond back and say, hey, I was actually thinking about the conversation we had, and I have a podcast episode for you. Drop the podcast episode that dives deeper into it. Boom. That can help to create a new listener and a super fan, because they feel so seen by you taking a moment to go and be like, hey, I was thinking about our conversation, and actually I have an episode that's going to like deep dive for you. Right? All right. That's it. 5 moves. Any one of them takes under 15 minutes, which I love, unless you're doing a coaching call in an hour, but you know what I mean? You can just plug that in, and any one of them is just way better than hitting publish and then hoping your audience finds you. Now, if you have the right SEO words, that'll work with time, but these are also great ways. And here's what I want you to know. Done is always better than perfect. A newsletter that went out is better than the perfect newsletter that's still sitting in your drafts, right? So show up with what you have. Your audience will meet you there. And the more you do it, the easier it'll become. Okay. So before we wrap up today, if you are listening to this live, we started the Podcast Glow Up AI edition today, and I want you there. So come hang out. It's 4 days. It is so tangible. You're going to have so many quick wins. You're going to walk away with literally having your AI trained. That is my goal for you. And so head to podcastmarketinghub.com/glow if you want to get in on that. We have a few days left. If you're just catching this on the end of the day on Tuesday, don't worry. Still get in there. I'll get you the replay, all the good things. But it's going to be life-changing for you, your podcast, your business. Okay, so I said I was coming back to this, and here we are. I want to give you explicit permission to not do all of this. This episode is meant to inspire you to open your eyes what's possible for a content ecosystem, right? To make you look at your back catalog, see it differently as a library of assets just waiting to be really activated, not a graveyard of episodes that came and went. Oh, that's so sad. But it's not a mandate, right? It's not a checklist for you have completed, within the next week. It's a menu. Pick and choose. Get really good at something before you move on to the next, right? If you have more support, maybe you do more. But right now, figure out what season you're in, right? Maybe you're in a season of growth and you have the capacity to go deep into a few of these. Amazing. Pick 3 or 4 and build a system around it. Build a system. That's what makes it easy. Maybe you are in a season of survival. I totally get this. I think we as entrepreneurs ebb and flow between survival and growth, right? Survival and thriving. And if it feels hard to just keep your podcast alive, that's so valid. Pick the 2 fastest wins and let that be enough. Let that be enough. The goal is never to do more. The goal is to do what you're already doing, but better, more intentionally. Ones that actually move the needle in your business, right? Your podcast is already doing so much for you. It's building trust. It's allowing people to come into your world and learn from you. And that alone is such a gift. All right. So I covered a lot today. I hope you love this episode. If you did, please share it. Share it out. get it out. Let's talk about the ecosystem, the content ecosystem a little bit more, but also let people hear the permission slip to just do what you can right now. And know that this episode is literally not going anywhere. You can come back to it in 5 months when you're in a place, maybe you have a little more support, a little more time, like things ebb and flow as entrepreneurs. So let's be okay with that. All right. Thank you so much for being here today. Again, if you're live with me on the day that this drops, the week that this drops, I have the glow up going on. Go to podcastmarketinghub.com/glow to join me and other amazing podcasters. We're going to be talking and training AI and all the things so that this content ecosystem actually becomes easier. I'm really excited for you. And thank you. Thank you for being here. You mean the world to me. Always let me know if there's an episode topic you want to hear. Share this, leave a review or rating. It goes a long way. I so appreciate it. And I will see you next week for next episode.